Uh-oh. Yes, go ahead on go on Facebook, Yasmina. I'm just having, there we go. Let's see here. It may or may not be live right now. Oh, there we go, live on Facebook. That's what it says. All right, perfect. So yeah, very first time Facebook using Facebook Live and Zoom. So what's up, everybody? Today I have a special guest. Okay, so you've heard me in the Morning Hustlers talk several times about my brother-in-law and how my brother-in-law has helped me out tremendously in my life. He took me to my first Tony Robbins event. He used to drive me to college when I failed my driver's test 3 times, and he would play these motivational tapes, Tony Robbins Personal Power 2. And along the journey, he's just been there aiding me over and over and over again. He is the CEO of LinkU Systems, and I'll give you a little bit more. He'll give you a little bit more about his backstory. But very excited for you guys to get some good knowledge and some good gems here. Wes, thanks for joining us here today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So the big thing is, man, like tell us about how you got started on your entrepreneurial journey, man.
Oh, where do I begin? Honestly, I feel like when it came to like wanting to be a business owner, it's been since I was little. Like there was this business card machine that they had at the mall, and they don't have them anymore, but they had these little business card machines. You can go in and put in your information, and it would literally just print out business cards right there. It was like in the food court. And I would make these little business cards, you know, WRR Enterprises and CEO, Wesley, president, this and that. And I was probably like 12. So, you know, from there, I just had done little things. And I guess to fast forward, during my jobs that I was working tech support. Then I took up programming, started learning web programming. And then from there, I'd watch this like Don Lapre. This is so before all of your time. I watched this Don Lapre infomercial just about placing tiny ads in newspapers across the US. And I was like, well, what if I create this tiny ad idea, but do it like online? And then what if I were to use something like pay-per-click advertising, which at the time was through a company called GoTo, to advertise these little ads. And I tried a bunch of things. I tried like how to never get a speeding ticket. I tried, like some kind of salsa recipes. I tried all kinds of stuff, like basically little funnel landing pages. And none of them really stuck, except eventually I found there's this music thing called Napster. It was like people could download music, it was free. It was like this whole thing, but they got shut down. So people started looking for alternatives. With that, I was looking for alternatives. I came across some website where I paid for a membership, and what it did is it let me in, but it just gave me links to download other music downloading software like LimeWire, WinMX, stuff like that. I'm like, I already know this stuff is free. Why are they charging me for it? And then I had like a light bulb go off. Like, wait, they're charging me for it. So how can I create a membership site just like this? So I essentially copied the same idea. I created a website pretty much within just a day or two. I'd used my programming skills and whatnot. I had a merchant account already with a gateway to accept credit cards and all this stuff from my other failed ideas, and slapped that on there. And then I put it on Google. At the time, it was still GoTo. There was no Google AdWords or anything like that at the time. And I put it on an ad up for when people would search Yahoo or AOL or any of those search engines for music download or MP3 download, my ad would pop up. And I was like the only one. I was paying like 2 cents, 3 cents a click. So I start getting these clicks. I put like $30 budget in there, whatever. Spent 30, but I also made $30. And my sales were just like $2.99 a month memberships. So I got a bunch of members. So I started building like this user management system. I started, like, wow, I was so excited because I had made my first, I'd made sales. And then I basically, unknowingly, I was building a funnel and upsells and downsells. And I didn't know any of those concepts. These are just things that came to me. I was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create this quarterly plan and annual plan and lifetime plan. And once I added those lifetime and quarterly and whatever plans, it started going from $3 transactions to $50 transactions. And then that thing, it just kind of blew up, and I just kept spending more and spending more. And yeah, at some point, I think I made up either $800,000 to $1 million, something like that, with that business in just like 1 year by myself.
How old were you?
I was at the time 20. Yeah, wow. I was 20. So fast forward to where we are today. That's how I kind of got started. And then I eventually, a lot of that stuff was going down. There's tons of competition coming in doing the same stuff, and a lot had changed over those couple years. So I ended up creating this company called LinkU Systems to build websites for real estate agents. And over the years, I've just kind of continue pivoting into where we are now, which is now building a software as a service. And in that, I've Facebook ads, Google ads. I'm a paid traffic person, not really an organic person. I like to just put it and see it work right away, and go from there. But yeah, that's pretty much kind of like a rundown of my entrepreneur start.
Wow. I definitely learned something there off the bat. I didn't know they had the business cards and the card. That's interesting. Never knew that about you. So learn something new every single day. Now, let's say you were to go back. Let's say you're going to start all over again, today.
Yeah.
Like in today's world, and you had that entrepreneurial bug, like, what do you think you'd be like drawn to? And like, if you had to do it all over again, like, what would you do?
It really depends on what you want in the end. And I feel like there's a couple types of businesses, or like you have to decide, like, do you want a lifestyle freedom type business? Or are you trying to build, I don't want to say an empire, but it's kind of like that, where you're building a company and you want to grow. And you're willing to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice for either one. But I feel like, there's this grow mentality where maybe eventually you're going to exit that company or sell it and, maybe make millions of dollars or something like that. And there's not necessarily a right way or wrong way. It's just kind of what you prefer. So with that being said, where I'm at now, I'm building the first business I had was a lifestyle business. It was a business that didn't require much resources. I could kind of do whatever. I can work remote, had maybe a couple employees, and I can kind of do my own thing, and it made money. And the LinkU is a whole nother thing. It's like you're in the trenches, you're growing, you're learning all kinds of stuff, you're heavily involved in the business. It relies very much on you. And yeah, you could build out of it, which is what I'm trying to do, but it's just a whole different type. So seeing that I'm already building that now, I'm going to finish this. And then if I were to do it again, though, I'd have to decide, like, okay, do I want a lifestyle business, or do I want to spend the next several years growing this? And obviously I've learned a lot since then. So I don't know. The question's always a trick question, because like, what would you do starting over? Let's not say what I would do starting over, because I would probably do a lot of the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If this whole thing works out, I would do this plan, right? Because that's how I get to my $200 million. If it doesn't, then I'll be like, okay, well, now that this all sucked, if I had to do it again, I would just do the lifestyle business.
Uh-huh.
Because then I could have at least and that's one thing I would say is if this doesn't work out, I kind of have a timeline, a counter. If I don't get to a certain place by 40, then, or see significant, like if I'm not seeing significant changes going in that direction, then I was like, I'm going to change everything to a lifestyle business, and I'm just going to enjoy my life and make money. So with that being said, once you make that decision, right? Is it a lifestyle? What do you want? You want to travel? You want to do this, that, whatever. Then I guess I would probably do that. High margin, something remote that doesn't require me to be in any place or any, commitment. I would definitely go the networking faster. That's something I am still working on, like not making the connections. That's something I would accelerate, and rely more maybe on partners or other people to help me further instead of trying to do everything myself, which is, I think, what a lot of my problems are or have been.
Yeah. So what would be the perks in terms of building that empire business, like what you're doing right now, versus, lifestyle? Because lifestyle on the surface, it looks amazing. It sounds amazing, right? Work remote. But what would be the perks as to the other side of the business that would alert people towards that rather than the lifestyle?
The perks of the other one is a bigger payoff, I think, in the end. It's a bigger payoff. Sometimes your personalities want that stuff, and as younger, I think as I was younger, I kind of had that just imagination that everything was just gonna turn out somehow, like magically. I was gonna get there, because that's what you see, that's what you see around you. That's what's advertised to you, essentially. But it's like there's always this other piece to the story, and there's millions of stories you don't see that don't work out. So you're just seeing a very sliver, and that's what everyone's chasing to, like this dream, right? But there's a plenty of dreams being met that people you don't even know, and they're doing just fine. But I think about things a little bit differently. Even if I were to do a lifestyle business, it would be very strategic in a way that, is this a business, even though it's a lifestyle business, that I could exit for a retirement? Or is it something that could, like, I don't want it to completely revolve around just me. You know what I mean? Even though it's a lifestyle business. And a lot of the lifestyle businesses you see are very much like influencer. They're very much like courses and really rely on that person. So the key is, and that's fine to start it that way, because that's even what I'm doing now, is I'm starting it with that. But it's very strategic of how I'm going to make my exit little by little by little, as far as not exit like out, just from being the front face, so that it's not just all me, it doesn't rely on me. There's other people involved, or doesn't necessarily rely on a specific person. But, so basically what I would say is, for the other type of business, you're hoping for a bigger payout. You build it big enough where you have enough revenue, enough growth, enough potential that that's what I'm trying to do, where I get it to a certain point, certain amount of revenue, and then exit. And then from there, you kind of do whatever you want to do. I feel like it's kind of like you get to enter this new world, a new game. What I've seen is people with like X amount of money, let's just say hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, let's just say millions of dollars in the bank, they get to play a different game than we get to play. It's a much different game. And once you're in that game and you're able to do everything strategic, you're able to build upon that money much, much faster. Whereas when you're, starting out or towards the bottom, you don't have those connections, or you don't have that, that going for you. Everything's so much harder. Like, it's just so much harder. You're having to work and hustle, and every day, every night, it's just like too much, So, and if you have family, and all these things are going to play into your decision on which type of business is best for you.
Wow. That was very eye-opening, because I didn't know that, because I was always under the assumption that you can build a business up to maybe like $100 million through a lifestyle business.
Well, you can, but here's how it works, right? So $100 million business is, we're not talking about doing $100 million a year. Like, even if you look at like Brendan Burchard, right? He's pretty big. And I want to say it was probably 6 years ago now. I think he said he was doing 10 million a year. Okay, so looking at Brendan Burchard doing $10 million a year as an influencer, doing courses and products and things like that. It was pretty much just him and maybe a couple other people running some stuff, but it was him. He said, when he tells a story, he said it's just him until the 10 million mark. He did it all on his own. But see, that was not like what he had built was not an exitable business, meaning it required Brendan to do the events because the brand was Brendan.com, Brendan. Well, if you look back since those 6 years, maybe even over the last 10 years, you could see how he's started diversifying into software like Kajabi, getting part ownership into that. So he has recurring. You'll see how all his memberships have changed from that kind of one-time sale model into subscription models. Because now they don't require necessarily him to go like just be him. And you'll notice he's still a brand, and that's fine, but he has other things set up so he can run his brand, but he's started building other pieces on the side that don't involve Brendan, but are still revenue sources. I think he's starting to think 10 years in the future, 20 years, 30 years. What if he decides not to do that anymore? What if something happens to him or something where he now has that backed up? If you look at Tony Robbins, it's the same thing. If Tony Robbins stopped working today, do you think he's going to go poor?
No.
No, because he's set it all up. It started with just him, but he's set it up. So when we say $100 million, what I was saying is Brendan was doing $10 million a year, and he was big. $10 million, and it wasn't even an exitable business really. So you couldn't say, 3x, 4x. He couldn't even probably get paid that multiple. So what that means is let's just say, when you say $100 million, that's usually like how much you exit for. So your company may only actually be doing revenue of, let's say, 20 million or 25 million a year. If I'm doing 25 million a year, and I have my business set up real good and the growth, and there's a lot of potential, and the investors are excited who want to buy it and all that stuff, they may pay me a 3x multiple or 4x multiple, which means it's 75 million times 25 or whatever the net is, depending on the business. The business model counts. But in my business model, being a software as a service, you get a higher multiple and a higher, you get to go very close to your gross. Point is, that's how you get to the 100 million. I have to have like a 20 to $25 million business to get anywhere close to 75 to $100 million exit. And an influencer business, you're not going to get a 3x or 4x. You might get a 1x. So if you build a $1 million business, but then you still have to be involved, because once you leave, your business is almost worthless unless you set up other stuff in place. So no investor is going to say, oh, let me buy Brendan.com. And then Brendan retires. It just doesn't work that way. So with that, he has a $10 million business that he probably couldn't even sell for $10 million.
Wow. That's pretty enlightening, man. That just really made me think of things that, didn't never even cross my mind. So the biggest thing as far as having a business that you can exit, that's where I'm assuming that's where you can see like the total freedom, right? Is that the
yeah? And none of this stuff was explained to me, and I didn't understand any of it until up to a few years ago. Really. And so by understanding this, and it's kind of, maybe some people might feel like, what are you talking about exiting and this and that? Like you're getting ahead. It's like, not really. Like if I had known this, then I would have planned the way I did my business, the way I built my business, everything much differently. I would have set my goals differently. Everything would have been much different. But it was as I went, then I learned, oh, okay, and this and that. And then there's another thing where you figure out, well, how do you want to live? Like, this isn't all about retirement. You know, it's not all about waiting till you're 60 years old. If anyone reads 4-Hour Work Week, right? It's not about waiting till you're old to retire. It's about planning for what does that retirement look like now. So for example, they were talking about, I went to Fiji with some guys, and I went to Fiji with these guys because I just wanted to be, you know, in the company of millionaires. That was it. I spent a little bit of money, it wasn't too bad, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to go because I want to be in the company of the people who were there. Mike Koenigs was there. There are a few other people, big business owners. Like, there are these people doing tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in business there. And the way they're talking about, you know, planning for their, not really retirements, just like their exits. And so the idea is, how much money do you need to be in your bank account where you can live off the interest as your salary and not have to do anything? So I think there were, you know, you just look at, well, what's the interest pay, maybe, or your investments pay maybe 6%, 5%, whatever it is. And how much money do you need in the bank? Let's say you just wanted to make 200 grand a year. So you say, well, how much do I need in the bank to just make $2 million, or not $200,000 a year, I believe is what I was going to say, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's say, let me see what that adds up to here. One more zero. Oh yeah, that's you don't need that much actually to make 200 grand a year. What was that, like 0.05 times? Well, whatever. Now let me tell you this, kids, you don't have to be good at math in business. All right, well, I'll tell you this. Okay, so you got to make, if you have $2 million in the bank, you can make 100 grand a year. So if you have $4 million in the bank, you make 200 grand a year gross.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? And that's like assuming a 5% return or something. And so that's the idea, is how much do you need to live off to have complete freedom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you need 4 million in the bank. So how do you get there? And then you reverse engineer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, with so many, you know, shiny objects, you know, considering that my audience, we're younger and we're at the beginning of business. And the thing is, it's like, there's people who are more experienced than us who may see us maybe perhaps like as prey, right? Like, oh, like they don't know too much, right? Like, and like we are advertised, you know, certain messages, and there's a lot of shiny objects, right? So we often find ourselves fumbling, maybe investing into the wrong things. Like how, like what's a good way to deter, like to judge, like I guess my thing is like the shiny object syndrome, right? Like what's like the right things to look out for? Like what are some red flags? Like, I don't know if we should, that's a good decision versus like, okay, like this makes sense. Like this perhaps like a good decision to make. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And stop me if I'm like off track or not answering. This, I feel like this comes back to kind of what we've been talking about, right? And we all know that we're all guilty of sometimes not planning our life. I was talking to my wife the other day. I was like, you know, why don't we just, like, we have some ideas of what we want, but we never attached any timelines to it and all this stuff. And I know all this stuff. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I just sometimes don't do it. Aren't we all, right? But I think if you just have if you have a specific goal, whether you know, okay, I want to do this, or I want to retire this way, or I want to have this, or whatever it is you're trying to do, you need to have something in mind. So at least something. And the reason that's important is because when a shiny object comes across your desk or an opportunity, and this can be at any level, if you know your overall goal is to be, let's say, a speaker, an influencer, you want to change people's lives and this and that, and some opportunity to invest in Bitcoin or something comes in, right? Or to do who knows what, some other thing that sounds interesting, but it's kind of just off the path, not really completely connected here. And sure, you might emotionally fight, well, if I do this, that might somehow get me there. A lot of times you have to analyze that, like, how is it really going to affect me? And what's the impact? What time am I getting? If I'm working on this, what am I not working on? Is this going to help me grow personally? Is this something I just want to do, like for fun, for me, is this going to be like just like my relaxation, my whatever it is? Or is this something that's going to take me away from my goal? Or it could even be your monthly goal. It could be your yearly goal. If you know where you need to be for the year and you have something pop up, is this going to detract you from what you were doing for the year? Mm-hmm. The other things, some shiny objects are good because you might be on a track to do something. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. But maybe that thing you're doing isn't right. So you learn something influences you. And then you realize, oh crap, wait, this thing's way better than this that I'm working on. And in that case, you may need to switch. You may need to pivot. I've done that recently myself. I was working very much on this software, but there's just so many little issues and there's so much stuff attached to it. I said, well, if I do this thing and just this thing, it is quite a pivot, but it's not going to take too long to figure out the answer. And if this thing works out, I can get to my goal way faster. And it's not far off. These things are can still intertwine and cross over later. And I went ahead and took that move, and it's working out. So I think it really just comes down to evaluating the shiny object, what it is. What is it to you? How's it going to help you grow, meet your goals, all that? You don't know that. If you don't have any goals, you don't have any of that, that's where people get caught up in shiny object for so long, is they just do any shiny object because they just want to make more money. Mm-hmm. So with that, and if you just have that, I just want to make more money, then any shiny object will sound good. Mm-hmm. You know?
Makes sense. So Wes, one thing that, like, how you, with your company, is you tend to go for you cast a big net with people paying like it's a low ticket. So why do you prefer low ticket and high volume versus low volume and high ticket?
You mean high value, high ticket, or?
Well, I mean like low volume. So like
low
working
volume,
with a small amount of clients and high ticket.
So this is different for everyone. This is just how I feel. When it comes to high ticket stuff, and it could just be my experience, because it was in websites and stuff, there's a good place and a bad place. Some high ticket to the right audience is fine because it just depends what their expectations are. So if they can afford it. So I feel like a high ticket $5,000 or $10,000 for somebody that could truly afford it, and you're delivering value that isn't having to go like bend over backwards stuff for 10 grand, then I think it could make sense. Here's what I'm getting to. For me, when it comes to high ticket, and my clientele and depending on your customers, I just don't think it works out as much because their expectations. And there's just so few of the people who can afford the high ticket thing that I feel like it makes it very difficult for me to sell. So I'll give you an example. Like if I'm selling a $25,000 mastermind to the right people, for the most part, and I can really deliver on that value, like the mastermind I'm in, I think that's worth it. That's a good, it's highly profitable, it's fun, it makes sense. You don't have to sell too many to make some money. That's fine. But when it comes to like, and I think this is where people get trapped, is you do a high ticket because high ticket is like so attractive. Oh, I want to sell something for 10 grand. But you're not selling it to the right audience. So you're really having to convince these people to spend 10 grand or 5 grand or 20 grand, and they're not really able to afford it. And since they're not really the clientele, they spend that money, and now you're on the, and you not knowing, because you don't generally buy that kind of stuff for that money. At least that's how I am. I give all this value of giving so much, it becomes a point where like, I don't even want, this is so much, this is so requiring so much of me. So for me, I just rather sell something cheaper for $99 or $1,000 or even $300. And that's how mine is, right? I sell stuff for $100, $200, $300. And then for the right people, they might get into a little bit higher. But I don't want to convince people who truly, because I can sell a $500 product to the same people, but their expectations are ridiculous for $500. And so I think it really depends on the audience. And for that, I don't want to get involved with it. It's too much stress for me because I feel like I have to be giving so much, and the expectations are out of line. So it just depends. Here's how to put it. If your typical client looks at $10,000 the same way to look at $1,000, then sell a $10,000 product. But if your client sees something as $10,000 and it's $10,000, then they're probably not the ideal candidate. And that's where you run into a problem. Because if $10,000, like if you spent 10 grand, Greg, like you better believe you need so much value. You're going to need so much to happen from that, because you don't really, I'm not saying you, but I'm even anyone, if you don't really have it to just like, it's going to be an impact on you, then you're more likely going to have an issue, unless it's just delivering so much value that you're like, okay, yeah, this is totally worth it. But for some people, that's just not it. You just end up with complainers and people who don't do anything with it. And then there's just becomes, and then they expect too much from you, and you spend all your time dealing with these people. That's just the way I see it. So that's why I stay in the lower ticket stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. So a big thing that I talk about a lot, especially with my group, is I talk about War Room a lot. A thing with my audience, we talk a lot about networking. Your network is your net worth. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And to be around people who are paying $30,000 a year to be part of this network and mastermind is, that speaks measures about those people. So like how do you think War Room has really changed your mindset? Like, how has that helped you out, like in your life? You've been a member for like what, 2 years now, right?
Yeah, I'm in my 2nd year now. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. The way that kind of came to was they had been sending me invites, and I was just like, no, I don't know what this is. I didn't really understand the mastermind. I didn't really get it, honestly. And that was only within the last 8 years or 6 years. I didn't get it. But what ended up happening, there's multiple things that came into that kind of led up to it. One of them was Ryan Dice was speaking at Traffic Conversion, talking about how he wanted to partner up with one of these bigger marketers. And I think Damon John was speaking as well. Like, they're telling you, if you want to connect with high influencers, you need to be able to provide to them. And they're, where people get stuck goes, well, how do I provide to a high influencer? Like, what do they need from me? Because little old me, what am I going to do for them? And that was one of the questions. And Ryan Dice answered the question, and he basically said, look, when I wanted to get close to this person, I had to pay for it. Like, I wanted to network with this person, so I paid 10 grand or whatever amount to get into some kind of event or mastermind, whatever it was, because he knew that person that he wanted to connect with was there. And that was the easiest way to get connection, was to just pay for it. And then I think Damon, don't quote me on this, said something along the fact of, well, just like you want want those people to bring you up, at the same time, they can't be talking because, they're going to be brought down. See, the millionaires want to talk to billionaires. And they just, they're just like you, like, well, I want to get to the next level. They want to get to the next level. So they just don't have the time to network with all these people who want to ride their coattails or get help from them. So I was like, that's very interesting. So to get closer, you can't just expect to talk to them or whatever, or go on a podcast or whatever and just be a partner with them, right? A lot of times this requires you showing the investment on your end. So that was one event. I think the next, I don't remember the same event or the next event. What it ended up coming down to was I was at an event where they had a mixer. You get a mix and network with people. The problem was, it was like everybody from the event was there. And I'm talking to people who are just starting out, like, yeah, I just started out this. And I'm like, man, like, how am I supposed to network and get higher if I got to go through like 50 people and I'm not a socializing type person? So it's already hard for me. So by the third person, I'm thinking these are all like, no offense, but these are all like newbies. And I'm overextending myself because everyone I talk to, I want to try and help. And I'm already trying to help like 10 people. So I need help. So as fun as that is, I was thinking, I just need something where the room is pre-qualified and I'm not trying to go one by one. How about you? Do you make, where are you? You know, like, because most of the people weren't at a high level. So when I went to that War Room breakfast where they talk about this and that, I was like, Wes, this is exactly what you're thinking about the other day. The room is pre-qualified. Businesses have to prove that they make over $1 million at least just to apply. So I was like, okay, well, at least now I know I'll be in a room, which isn't like 1,000 or 3,000 people or several hundred. It'll be maybe 300 people, but at least I know all of them are at minimum my level or higher, or $1 million or higher, you know? And so with that being said, I ended up joining. And at the time I was actually right on the brink of going broke with my company. So how I pulled it off, I don't remember how it all ended up going, but I put it on a credit card. I had a new credit card, a Bank of America card that had a $27,000 limit on it. And I was thinking, this is crazy. I went ahead and pulled that card and filled out the form and turned it in. And the application was accepted. And they billed that card. I was like, well, I'm in. So
Wow.
here we go.
Wow, man. What a decision.
Yeah, and the changes were, once I was in, I almost forgot the main part of the question. That's the story how I got in. Since then, what I would say, it had a lot of changes. I'm making great like networking, right? So I've upped like normally I don't really have anyone to talk to that's making millions of dollars, right? Or higher or the same or whatever. So having that in my, like, I've made friends now who run businesses, and it's just easier to talk with these people and get help when you get stuck and help them. And it's just so much different. And then the other pieces are just seeing it all around you all the time. Because I think the biggest thing you struggle with is mindset. Like, can I do it? Is it possible? It's probably not for me. Yeah, it's for others, but I'm not going to make that amount of money, especially if you're just in your regular circles. But being around everyone who's doing, not necessarily they're doing well, everyone, there's two things. It's not easy. And now you realize it's not easy for everyone. And you see deeper into the stories. You learn deeper about, oh, from the outside, it looks like this, but inside you could see now the struggles and this, and they're just like me. I also went through it. It doesn't just magically work out for everybody like it seems like it does. So there's that. And then there's obviously people that are willing to help you through your struggles. But then the third thing is also seeing the people who are succeeding and getting there. It makes it more real, like, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Because now you're hearing the stories more often because it's all around you. So it did change my mindset. It made me think a lot differently as far as just thinking bigger. Instead of like, oh, one day I hope to make $1 million. You know, that's where a lot of people, entrepreneurs are, oh, if I can make $1 million, if I can make 5 million. Now I'm like, I went from like, I think 10 million. I was thinking, oh, if I could just make 10 million. Now I'm like, well, based on everything I've learned here, I don't see why I couldn't do 100, you know, stuff like that. It just changes your mindset and your thinking. And I could go on and on about other things, but those are some of the main ones.
Yeah, and you've met people in there, so when you meet these people who are making that kind of money,
Yeah.
those people, they want to meet you, right? So they'll actually sit down and have a conversation with you, like more likely.
Yeah, because now they're not being inundated, like in a bigger event with a lot of people, there's just too many coming to them and wanting help in this way or that way, or deal or partnership and blah, blah, blah. With this, you know, it's a very limited number of people. So they're not having, and you're in the group and they're in the group, they want to give back. But there's also people that they're getting from, and it's just more of a complete circle because it's just smaller. So it makes it more possible for them to actually help you and be assistive to you. Now, yeah, do you still, are they all going to be able to help? No, of course not. Do you still have to kind of work on those relationships and prove yourself? Absolutely. That's going to be in any circle, but in this, it cut through the chase. And just like what I noticed with these masterminds and stuff is it is more of a community. So it's just more about, hey, you're in my community, I'm going to help you. You know, it kind of eliminated all the red tape that you normally might have in the middle.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great, man. So like, we hear the saying, like, your network is your net worth. Do you wish that you had joined War Room like a lot sooner? Like how much money do you think you would have made? How much more money do you think you would have made just from sheer connections alone if you had joined it maybe 5 years ago?
You know, I don't know. Sometimes it's like, oh, I wish I would have done that earlier. I wish I would have done this sooner or realized it sooner and this and that. But then sometimes you look at, you know, the dots, I guess, and where they're connecting and how they're connecting. And then you wonder, would it have made sense earlier? I guess just based on my path, I don't know if it would have, but I guess if you think about multiple things, yeah, I think joining earlier would have got me to my realizations where I am now a lot faster. And so I probably could have cut off, because if I look at my business, I think about, yeah, there's like 4 or 5 years of wasted time there. I could probably cut through all that and got to kind of where I'm at right now a lot sooner, or at least, you know, I would just be a little bit ahead of the game. So I guess, yes, always sooner better, but sometimes you have to go through what you go through. And I just didn't have anything like this in front of me. So if you have it in front of you, it would be dumb to, if I had it in front of me and I didn't take action, then that would be shame on me, right? So if someone's watching this and then they still wait till they're 38 to join War Room or a group like that, or get into that, then that's shame on them because they knew about it at 23 or 24 or 30, whatever age. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yes, when I knew about stuff, I started taking action on it, probably slower than I should have. And that definitely affected how long things are taking for me. Absolutely.
Gotcha, man. So here, looking at the Facebook comments, we have Gabriel. He says, comment 24 minutes ago, very insightful. Yasmina, 4 minutes ago, says, this is extremely insightful, Wes. Thank you for sharing your story. Anyone who's watching the live right now, ask some questions. We'll start wrapping it up. In the meantime, Wes, I mean, do you have anything you want to say to the generation that's coming up in entrepreneurship that can really help them out and shortcut a lot of just frustrating heartaches?
Repeat that last part. It was cutting out for some reason.
Yeah. Like, do you have anything you want to say to the upcoming generation in terms of, you know, they want to get into entrepreneurship? Like, is there anything you can say or like, give them some kind of guidance that would, you know, potentially save them a lot of frustration and hardships?
Yeah, I would say, definitely surround yourself with the right people. That's probably number one. So you have to make sure you're working on your mind. That's huge. The other thing that I think is probably one of the next most important things is you have to understand the general basics of business. And that is, for so many years, I had just gone through my business and I was making money, and my business was doubling every year. And I just imagined that it was just I could just keep doing what I was doing, and it would just keep growing and growing and growing, growing. Like, I didn't really understand the phases or levels or any of that stuff in business. And I think the reason that is because as you're younger, when it goes over your head, you kind of tend to dismiss it and say, I'll figure it out. I'll do it later. Kind of like I was telling you about that Profit First book. That's a perfect example, right? I don't need this now. Oh, I'm not there yet. You're not there yet, but you will be. And so if you take that advice now, you can avoid all those issues and all those challenges leading up to there. So if I was an entrepreneur or a young person getting into it, I would really try to understand understand the levels, the challenges, the pitfalls along the way, so that I'm not going in naive to what's ahead of me, because that's going to waste a whole ton of time, not knowing your numbers, how many people. You can't just imagine that, oh, I'm gonna make $1 million. Well, how? Like how in school you'd have to prove your math problem? That's what you need to do. Write it down and prove to me how you get $1 million. Oh, well, because I'm gonna get 5,000 people. Well, how are you gonna get 5,000 people? Oh, what evidence do you have that's proven that that's happened in the past? Well, nothing. A lot of this is just imaginary, magical things that are just gonna randomly happen. And that's when by imagining those things, you start damaging your mindset, because it never works out, and then you want to give up. But if you just understood the numbers to begin with, that it wasn't ever going to be that way, then you could actually strategically know where you're going. And I'm not saying not to have big goals, but understand that it's just not magical. You know what I'm saying? And I know we've had these conversations many times, Greg, but that would be my biggest thing. Like, if I thought of anything and everything from when I started, it would be just understanding those business principles earlier, and paying attention to the challenges along the way, even though I felt like it didn't apply to me yet. I should have done those, because it was my future telling me that these are going to be important, and I could have planned for it ahead of time and not had to learn it all the hard way.
Most definitely. So what would someone seek some information out like that where they can learn that? Because I have you, fortunately, as a mentor. But let's say someone doesn't have a mentor, or the direction. Like, where do you think they can go find that kind of information?
I would say aside from books is the cheapest and easiest way. Definitely. There's plenty of information in all the books. So if you know where you're going, where your goals, try and find books that meet that along the way. And then belong to groups like this one and other entrepreneur groups where you can hear from people. Maybe don't follow like 10 different entrepreneurs, because they're all going to do things so much differently. Find one that's kind of in an area or a vertical that you're interested or very similar to what you're doing, and just emulate what they're doing and watch what they're doing and learn from them. If you want to be in digital marketing and this and that, maybe Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels is someone you like, but there's a million people in that industry, right? So just find somebody that you like, and they're always talking about business. They're always telling you strategies. They're always telling you the books to read. That's free. You can just follow the path until you can get into something a little more personal. But there are groups that you can get into, Facebook groups and webinars like this and things like that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Gabriel asks, he says, what worries did you have when you first had the idea of creating your own business?
I guess your worry is always just if it doesn't work. What if nobody buys it? And what if it doesn't work? But my solution to that was always paid traffic, because I could find out if an idea worked right away, usually. Because either I'd write an ad, and if no one clicked on the ad, then nobody gave a crap about what it was I was offering. So it could be your messaging, but assuming you get your messaging even somewhat right, you can generate some kind of interest, some kind of clicks, even possibly purchases or inquiries. Then you know it could work. Yeah, you can sell a few, and there's plenty of workshops on that. But yeah, that's what I always did, that to prove out ideas. I would set a budget, like, okay, $500 on ads. If I don't get a certain thing or whatever, then I would know the idea is crap.
Yeah. Makes sense. So yeah, the biggest worry
Asking
you
family
have
and
is,
friends isn't really that helpful unless they're willing to buy it. Always get, oh, that's a great idea. You know. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, we got 5 minutes left. I want to ask you just one last thing, because you've gone to more Tony Robbins events than anyone that I know. Even though Tony has, like, you know, similar, he says the same thing in the events, right?
Yeah.
What keeps you going back to see Tony Robbins?
Well, I always say this, like, after I come back from Tony Robbins event, I always am like, man, I kind of wish that there was like a weekly service, you know, like if Tony held a weekly service like church. I hate to compare it. I'm just saying it's an idea. It's a general idea. But the concept of church, right, is to be spiritual every Sunday and get that reignited every Sunday. So something similar to that is how I look at it. Like, oh, I wish we could do this all the time. Just because it's too easy to fall into your normal habits. It's too easy to fall into all the distractions and everything else pulling to you in your daily life. So going to Tony Robbins events, I look at it that way, right? You don't go to the gym once and like, oh, I'm fit for life, right? So you keep going. And I know I'm a slower, not learner, but implementer when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so I figure I'm just going to go as often as I can. And every time I go, a little something sticks. So I improve myself little by little. But that's pretty much it. I'll listen to books multiple times. I'll go to that type of event multiple times. I'll listen to things multiple times. And he'll say it, even if you know it, if you're not doing it, you don't know it. So
I like that.
That's kind of the reason why. Just I wish I could go more often. And I know it is weird. You listen to the same stuff over again. It's the same stuff, but also it also shows you something. If I collect my workbooks, and if I go through the workbooks and look at the challenges, it's very interesting reading that. Kind of like why you journal, right? You go through your journal and you can kind of see, like, am I making progress? Or is April 12th the same as April 12th, 2020 or 19th? Like, well, I'm still trying to manage my time. You go 3 years ahead. I'm still trying to manage my time. Ah, damn it. What the hell's up with this time management? So with the Tony Robbins thing or any event or any journaling, I think that is important because it kind of marks these challenges. And if you're doing the same crap over and over, is it just a higher level, the same thing? Or are you literally doing the same thing over and over again? And it's pointed out to me that that's why I set that goal. Like, okay, that's it, man, by 40. Because I went through those books and I saw every freaking year, it was the same challenges, barely different. I'm still looking to manage my time, productivity, blah, 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 more family, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a good check-in, good reignition event for me.
Beautiful. You know, I'm a huge advocate of Tony Robbins. I'm very grateful for you to putting me onto Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins has helped. You know, you guided me to Tony Robbins has really just lit the fire in me, and I made tremendous progress in my life because of you, because having you there. You know, I talk about this all the time. Like one of the best things that ever happened to me was the fact that I failed my driver's test 3 times, and you were there to give a helping hand to help take me to school, and you decided to play those, you know, those motivational tapes on the way to school. And there's been, you know, you've helped me pay for events. You've taken me, you've helped me out with, like, you know, flights and hotels. So, you know, without you, there's no me. So I just want to say, man, hey, thank you so much for helping me out. And by you doing that, like I'm able to help out a community of people as well. And you know, like you have helped ripple this, and then they go and they help their friends and their family and whatever, however they have their impact.
Right. Yeah.
So I
Good
just
to
want to say
hear it
thank
that
you so
way.
much, man. And
Yeah,
thanks
well,
for
I mean,
joining
it's pretty close to what you wrote in your testimonial about me. So
Oh, for those of you watching, he made up this testimonial on his website about what I said. It's ridiculous, but it's very funny. But again, thanks for your time, Wes. I know you gotta get some you got a really important thing you gotta get to right now. So have some fun, and I'll see you soon, man. Thank you.
yeah, anytime I'm here. All right. See you later.
All right, peace.
Bye-bye.